Lucky Boys Podcast.
Well, I do operate in another world, right? I'm a flute maker, and I play the Zen flute, and I work in Zen monasteries, and I do workshops. So I'm privy to another world that's completely opposite of the capitalism, right? So these monks literally are these people with nothing.
Wait, let me just catch up with you there.
Yeah.
You spent time with monks?
Yes. I have a flute making business, a shakuhachi Zen flute. So when I became the stay-at-home dad, I discovered the shakuhachi flute. I went to Japan to study with a master. And so the Zen flute is about meditation, and it came from the Komuso Zen monks of Japan with the baskets over their heads. So they don't have identities. So they basically live in this world, without identity. So they don't.
Time out. You need to rewind there.
I'm a whole other person now.
I didn't know. Yeah, but I didn't know that there were monks that wear baskets over their heads.
In Japan, Komuso, the Japanese Komuso monks. They're Zen monks.
And the representation of the basket is to conceal, not conceal, but then they really have no identity.
No identity. Yeah. They remove the self, the ego from the world. So they walk around with the beggar's bowls, and they play their flutes with the beggar's bowl for alms. So they survive off donations from the regular
And how did
people.
you get connected with them?
Through the shakuhachi flute, which I discovered in theater. So I was in a theater production at La Mama, directed by Ellen Stewart, where one of the pit musicians was playing the shakuhachi. It's a very special instrument in 1993. When I heard it, I was like, I need to learn how to play that flute. It's a Japanese bamboo flute. Very ethereal. You've heard it in soundtracks, in movies, and in Warrior.
You were playing the flute, yeah.
Right. So what happens is those people, just to go back to the Komuso monks, they live in a world separated from society. They remove themselves from people who have to go to work, earn a living, have a wife, have kids. They're just monks meditating for peace, for the world. So because of my work with the shakuhachi and how it's related to Zen and the Zen community in the US, I've done meditation workshops in terms of teaching people how to play the flute for meditation. A lot of people are monks that are removed from the world, and they literally only have a robe, and they only live day to day, cooking the meals at the monastery, doing their chants for world peace, and they literally are removed from the world and disengaged with any sort of money making, ego, materialism. Yeah, and they're very happy people.
And they're very happy.
Very happy.
Oh, how much time did you spend with them?
Well, I do that ongoing. I still teach whenever the Zen Mountain Monastery or the Brooklyn Fire Lotus Temple hires me, because I'm sort of their resident shakuhachi maker, workshop, artist. Mm-hmm. And I do my own when people ask. I did one just a month ago, last month. So it's a whole other world for me.
Yeah, it sounds like. Wait, so how do you go from such a peaceful existence? Because that's totally contrasting the whole monk no ego to acting in front of the camera, show business. How do you switch gears? Isn't that like plugging in a video game and going, you enter this whole new world?
That's why he's a great actor. I mean, his character, Father Jun, basically is the Dai Lo of the toughest gang in Chinatown. So how do you go from harmonious to I'm a badass?
Yeah, there's two different. I mean, it's kind of a complex question, right? Let me see. I'll try to answer it as succinctly and short as possible. The craft of acting is art, right? So how I present Father Jun is a crafting of the art of who I am in that moment for film. Shakuhachi is a meditation into clearing out the ego so that I could experience a sense of freedom and release from things that are unreal in the world, right? Because you have all these thoughts, and they actually are very unreal when you realize through meditation, that thought's not real. Why is it hanging on? Just let it go. Oh, that thought's, just let it go. So that clearing actually helps me do very clearer art. So it helps my acting in terms of sculpting characters, how do I really chisel out who Father Jun is, So it helps in terms of I have clarity in what I do. And aiming that clarity at who Father June is in the show. He's the Malcolm X of Chinatown. So I basically do the research to find out how can I create the clearest, best Father June of Chinatown through the craft, right? And that's just the shakuhachi, I think, helps me like release a lot of my own ego, what I think, and just try to do the research to make good art for what the script calls for, you know. And then of course there are times when I can't separate myself, you know, from the character. And there's some theories of acting that says every character you play is you, are you, right? You are everything you do, no matter what you do. Yeah, it's in my body, in my brain, in my experience. And that's true too. So I'm able to call upon my activism, you know, to say Father June is Perry Young, you know, also.
So it's like a spiritual detox in a sense.
It is definitely a spiritual aspect. I mean, both in acting and you know, I look at acting as definitely very spiritual, you know, and therapeutical. You know, if you're lucky enough like me to have a role like Father June in a show like Warrior that I can call out racism, that's a gift to someone like me, you know, because that's like my calling, you know, because I was an activist in college and I did activism with my theater group Slant, and it was always done through art, right? So Father June got to say it, got to speak it, you know, and that was like, wow, what a gift, you know?
Do you ever have problems recalibrating yourself back into the real world? I remember I was listening to one of Al Pacino's older interviews, and I think he was playing a cop, and he got so into that role that in real life, while he was driving, he got cut off by, I think, a car or a bus, and he chased that car down. He didn't even have a badge, but he pulled out his wallet, pull over. And in his head, he thought he was still...
he was a good fella?
He was, he thought he was a police officer.
I do have a problem recalibrating. The shakuhachi helps a lot. Like after film shoots, regardless of whether it's Warrior or other shows, I have to chill. I won't be able to go to sleep unless I play the flute, you know, really like relax and let things go and kind of get my mind back to zero. Otherwise I'm humming up here and like, I should have did the line this way. Oh, I should have did this way. Oh, when that camera was there, I should have did, you know what I mean? Like you got to let that stuff go because it's done.